Hi, I am Linda Miller. It is Friday, January 16th, 2026, 1 o'clock, and we are going to call to order this meeting of the Land Use Working Group Public Works Subcommittee. And I will call to order, and I believe Rob Almeida is here. If you could say
yes, I'm present.
yes, and I am present, Linda Miller. Hopefully, Matt Boger will be joining us soon. And if we will recognize him then. Oh, and here he is. So, Matt, can you unmute yourself? And we're calling to order.
Apologies for being late. Yes. Good morning, everyone.
Great. All right. This is terrific. And we also have with us Alan Cathcart, who will be able to provide input from staff as Director of Concord Public Works. And I think, Alan, you have the ability to screen share. With that, hopefully we can have a really productive meeting. First thing I'd like to ask, based on the agenda, is if there is any public comment. Seeing none, so we'll have to remember this time is valuable for everybody else as well as us. Then I know I sent out copies of minutes, both for December 17th and January 7th. I'm not sure if everyone had a chance to look at those. If
I did, and I'm fine, Linda.
You're fine with them, Matt? You're fine with them? Okay, then can I have a motion to approve the minutes of those two dates?
I'll take care. I put forward a motion to approve the minutes as noted from January 17th. December 17th and January 7th.
And a second?
I have a second, although did Alan have a comment? Sorry.
Oh, Alan, did you
Yeah.
have comments on the minutes?
Thank you. I just wanted, because I wasn't at the January 7th, there was a reference that Mr. McShane mentioned about the area of Public Works functioning at our compost site.
Yes, he
And
said that he got that information from you.
did he get, I don't recall in writing. I think it's a little low, but I just want to make a comment that, that's, I don't know what the request was, and I'm a little concerned. It's a little under, it says 2 to 3 acres would be required to replace Public Works functions.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I would note that, that's a representation I'm not sure I can substantiate. That's all, because I think it's a little bit more than that.
Okay.
It's the record, but I just wanted to, flag.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe I'll ask Shannon. Can we put clarifications in minutes? How would that work?
I don't see why you wouldn't be able to add something like that in there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm happy to do that.
Yeah. Wouldn't that, or just throwing this out there, wouldn't that be amended in these minutes now today?
Yeah, that's what I'm suggesting, that we amend the minutes from the 7th.
No, what I'm saying, sorry, I misspoke, Linda. What I'm saying is that Alan mentioning that comment now would be in the minutes for today's meeting, and we will approve those minutes later on, as opposed to having to amend the meeting minutes in the future, the past meeting minutes.
Yeah.
Would that satisfy you?
Yeah, that would. Just as long as it's part of the record, that's not the only record that we have. So yes, that I think would be helpful.
Okay. Then great. We had a second from Matt, and so I'll take a roll call. Start with Rob Almeida.
Yes.
Matt Boger.
Yes.
And Linda Miller, yes. Okay. So now we're going to move forward to look at the site criteria and matrix of sites, and I think we can do that simultaneously with, and I'm going to ask Rob if he can screen share the document.
I'm
which,
I'm actually, I don't have my computer with me. I'm on the phone.
oh,
So
okay,
I can
so,
do that for you, Linda. Which, is it
um,
in the report?
no,
Oh.
this is, I think I can screen share. Let me see.
there you
Um,
go. It's coming up.
Yeah, you
did it
got it.
come up? Okay, great.
Yes.
Okay, so yeah, I will let you then using this kind of, because I think this is a really excellent pass that you made at this, and hopefully we can um, gain a lot from your hard work. So thank you, and hand it over to you,
So,
Rob.
okay, I'm gonna go column by column. So we'll go by each location, and then we'll go from there. So the MCI Concord Junction Village location, my comments there, I feel like, it's obviously an excellent location for the relocation of the department. Again, the driver would be the buffer zone around the wastewater plant. A lot of the commentary for this facility is going to be centered around that buffer zone. Um, I feel that the accessibility is excellent. Again, anyone comments as we're going along, you know, this is, still kind of, it's a working document here.
Mhm.
The cost of acquisition, as I commented, the cost is going to be primarily driven by the construction costs more so than the acquisition costs for this location. Um,
Well,
and
I
then
would just
same
say
thing.
that, oh, if I can interrupt, should we interrupt you
Yeah,
or yeah,
yeah, go ahead. No,
only
let's,
because I think the acquisition costs are unknown. I mean, I think you're exactly right. The costs will be pretty much driven by the construction, but I think at some point we need to say cost of acquisition because the land isn't owned by Concord.
yep,
But so I think we just have to say somewhere, maybe that's a risk factor somewhere, but acknowledge that we have no ability to make any judgments about what
yep.
that cost might
I
be.
agree. I would say that,
Yeah,
TBD or the anticipated costs to acquire the land should be low, but they
yeah,
are unknown at this point.
right. And I think you've described previously that the reasons the cost should be low is that they're in that buffer zone, which would have a relatively low um, value for other uses because of the proximity to the wastewater treatment facility.
Correct.
Yeah,
And
great.
and then that's the same thing here with the opportunity cost below. Again, we need a study done. You know, I don't know where that will come from or who would initiate it, but at some point, a study needs to be done to at least establish that buffer zone formally on, um, operating and maintenance costs. I would say that the operating costs are just for this facility would be, in line where we are right now. Obviously, it's just subject to inflationary pressures. That's the only thing that would be, or, escalation in commodities would be the other driver. Um, Provide emergency response times. I feel like this is a very, accessible area for both town center and West Concord, right off of Route 2. Again, for that type of response time. Let's see. Proximity to high needs areas. I mean, we're never going to find, I like to say, the Goldilocks scenario for a location in town, but this will provide a good location the uh, for the relocation. Again, access to roads is good. Utilities, I would think, are
Right.
excellent
I guess
because,
I guess again, to me, this is a little bit of a risk in that, you know, its location is central, but we really, in terms of the planning for the MCI site, we really don't know where egress and exits are going to be located. And one of the issues would be, what access might there be to Winthrop Street in addition to Route 2, right? Because we kind of need two access points is my understanding. And so right now, Winthrop Street, I think people may have the understanding that's just going to be for emergency use. So I don't know, maybe Russ or Alan have some thoughts on that as well, but I don't know how to talk about the access issues.
I will, Russ, if you have thoughts, you may on a planning level weigh in, but as far as access goes, I think existing conditions, it's right off of Route 2, so it's ready access to a road that will be maintained and open, just so we kind of remember and we're comparing. Some sites are more remote, and if there's a problem or trees down or something, they're not accessible, so Route 2 is pretty readily available. The other emergency, in access is something which Linda's correct. It would likely be Winthrop or something, some spur onto Com Ave, and that's to be determined. But I guess that in comparison to other sites, we'd be looking at the same kind of thing, where it's the second egress, and presently that's unresolved. But it would be likely in existing conditions, emergency access only.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Just to that point, in terms of emergency access, I mean, we're not talking police and fire here, and not to diminish the DPW's role in things. CMLP handles, obviously the electrical, and then if there's a gas leak, who would respond for that? Just out of curiosity.
It could be all the above. If there was a need to control traffic, bring barriers out, that kind of stuff, we'd be involved.
Okay.
So, yeah.
But I would say that's pretty much, and then obviously on a water main, you're involved. And that's kind of what I'm trying to touch upon is more, where the amount of scenarios where this would be, and it would be an all-encompassing response. Typically, you would have police, fire support as well for most of the, clearing the roads and whatnot, clearing paths for the equipment if needed. So I think, this site here, you're going to have the two means of egress no matter what.
Mm-hmm. I would agree with that. Yes.
So we were at utilities. I think the utilities shouldn't be an issue here. It already has a, serviced by CMLP, obviously has water, has wastewater. The only thing I don't know where the gas lines are. I'd imagine there are gas lines near the facility, so you wouldn't have to, put new gas lines in if needed. The next item is, sorry, I was just lost my train of thought. The building, obviously the building's going to have to be brought up to code. That's where most of the costs will be sunk into if this was the site to be used. ADA access, obviously any buildings that are altered significantly are going to have to be brought up to code, because most of these buildings are not, they're not in their final intended space or configuration. Need for renovations, that's obvious. The site acquisition and timing, that's going to be a DCAM discussion. Really how long, what's their, timeline to dissolve the property, how they're going to dissolve the property into, parcels or not. And then sustainability, existing conditions, there's plenty of space for panels on the roofs. There's opportunity for that. And then if there's areas that are in a buffer zone that we can't use either for, an occupied building or commercial residential space, that's another opportunity to look at. The neighborhood effects, that's, we know that this one's kind of everyone's hot button right now regarding the location. Everyone has different visions for this campus. So there's always going to be that, disagreement on how best use this land. So I think that's the last item for there. And then,
Yep.
the compatibility with zonings, TBD, DCAM, and legal environmental community is going to be a DCAM item. Hazardous materials, I don't know. Not going to comment on that. And then, political or stakeholder concerns, as mentioned before, there's a lot of ideas and visions for this property and campus. So just leave it at that.
Good. Shall we pause and just see if anyone wants to raise their hand or has any thoughts about MCI Concord? No?
I thought Russ had something. He had his hands up. Sorry, I'm just seeing that. Russ, do you have any input?
Oh,
Yeah, I was having trouble getting in, but Ellen addressed all the concerns. We talking about access and this and that, and really access to the neighborhood is going to be minimal for us. Like if it's, I forgot the
Right.
name of that little secondary road, but if that was an emergency, that would be fine. But mostly through Route 2. That was it.
mhm. Okay, so next would be 133, 135 Kais Road.
So do you want me to just read through all of them, or how do we want to do you want to scroll through the first buckets and then see if anyone has any comments, on these, or just you want me to read each one of them?
Well, I guess you could, I think it would probably be good for the record to either read
Yeah,
through
that's
each
fine.
one or comment
Sure.
on the ones that you think are critical, but yeah.
So,
Rob, if you don't mind just going through exactly what you did, I thought was wonderful. I really do appreciate
no
that.
worries. I
Great,
just want to
thank
make
you.
sure I'm not, dominating the conversation here. So, Kai's Road, the acreage and configuration, I felt they're fair. That and what I mean fair is they're not great. The DPW can make do with the campus, but there's going to be, I would see significant alterations happening there. Rapid accessibility, it's average.
I guess in terms of acreage and configuration, it seems to me that if we just leave it at 133, 135, I mean, I don't know that I would put that as poor. If you would assume that you might expand to 141 as well, then I might go with fair to good. How do you?
I
How
agree
do-
with that.
Okay.
But here's my also other thought is that, and Russ and Alan, you guys chime in, but if I was to envision this project, if we were to stay at Kai's Road, I would imagine that we would go build vertically somehow, to a 2 or 3 story facility, A, to accommodate the garages that you need, and B, to allow for office space. Again, I don't know, what your visions for that campus are could be different, but that's why I put fair for the for the acreage. I don't think it's the right size facility, but if we're kind of pigeonholed to that location, that was my logic behind it.
Yeah, Rob, that was the concept floated, 5 years ago, as far as reconstruction with kind of a large facility, multi-stories. So you're on point with what was done in the past.
But if Linda wants to put fair to poor to fair, I'm okay with that as well. I have no disagreement with that. I feel the accessibility is average. It's not perfect, but it's not terrible either. Again, we're not going to find the Goldilocks scenario where the one piece of land location that's going to provide an equal response time, everything else, it's in town. So the costs, again, there's going to be zero acquisition costs if we keep with that same acreage, but the cost there will be obviously in construction, but also how we're going to handle the interim when we lose a building or two for a period. Where are we going to put, certain operations in certain locations in town? A lot of that cost it's kind of an unknown. It's a very hard cost to nail down. But that there would be a significant cost. Now the opportunity costs, the next bucket. My thought is if we were to relocate, this could provide, a property to offset construction costs at a new campus. Given its prime location, opportunity to build residential or mixed use area that, once the facility is vacated. And then operation and maintenance costs. I'm going to kind of say that, across the board, they're pretty much the same, except for here, because, we're going to have that, whether you sink that cost in, capital improvement, or you sink that cost in operations, that interim cost and how we're going to configure things has to be addressed. Whether it's in one of these two buckets, it's just one of those things that's not going to go away. That's the only location where the operating and maintenance costs are different versus, in my mind, versus the other locations.
Okay.
Providing, if we could scroll down a little bit, Linda, sorry.
Yeah.
The emergency response times I felt were good, not great. Proximity to high need areas is good. Obviously, town center is going to be more quickly served than West Concord, but again, that really is driven mostly by an emergency, not in the typical day-to-day fashion. Access to major roads, again, good, but there could be traffic and whatnot holding up travel time. Utilities, again, and this is where Alan and Russ can kind of chime in and disagree. I don't know, the service that you have over there from CMLP, how much more of a load it can handle. I imagine obviously water is fine, and whatnot, but that's the only one that I couldn't get a good read on. If we're going to go with the larger facility, typically, your power needs grow. Is the circuit that's there big enough? Do we need a new transformer? Obviously we're going to have new switch gear or panel boards and whatnot to handle, 1200 amp or 2000 amp service, depending on what size it is for the campus. Again, the building age, again, I put poor. I think some of the buildings they're clean, but they're showing their age. And then ADA will need to upgrade accordingly. That's going to go with every single facility as well. There's no change there. Needs for renovations or upgrades is a yes. Not applicable for site acquisition. Permitting is going to be pretty quick for that location versus others. Project facing, there will be partial. We're going to have to relocate, certain activities, like I mentioned before. Urgency, flexibility, schedule. Again, it's flexible, but if we have a plan to relocate operations, depending on which operations can be relocated and how. Sustainability, as any location, there will be space on the roofs to put panels in. That wouldn't be a problem. Neighborhood effects, and I would say they're not applicable here. Campus is already there. There's don't have a lot of residents in that area, so that really shouldn't be a challenge with that. Compatibility with the current zoning is a yes. And environmental legal barriers, I probably should have put TBD, not NA, but I think that they're going to be a lot less than other locations. Hazardous materials, I always put TBD on any place that has had operations, like this for years, because we don't know. I mean, I know, Alan and Russ probably have a better grasp, but and then the political or stakeholder concerns, just the disruption to the operation, and the increased costs associated with the interim operations being held off campus.
Okay. Again, just to pause and see if anyone would like to chime in with any comments about 133, 135 Kais Road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Russ. Sorry. Russ, can you speak? I'm going to try. I don't know what.
Now I can. I can. Yeah, Robert brought up the power. The only thing, we need increased power supply over here. If we're going to bring in new technologies and new equipment, fast chargers and things like that. So that was the only thing I would add to that whole line. Otherwise, Rob hit everything right on target.
I'd offer one other aspect on the emergency response. One of the challenges of this site is because it is in the flood zone, it sort of becomes prohibitive to have access if in a serious flooding events, our operations are in an area that we can't access. That's just a consideration, one that we've had, especially with extreme flooding concerns, just on the radar. But otherwise, I think you captured it very accurately.
Great. All right. Moving along to 509 Bedford Street, where the existing wastewater treatment facility is.
So acreage, I view it as excellent. I view the rapid
Yeah.
accessibility. Sorry.
So in terms of acreage, there are like two issues on acreage, because there's the existing 509 Bedford Street, but then there is the municipal land around that, and then there's the municipal land across the road that's in agricultural use. So when you're considering acreage being excellent, tell me sort of which of those configurations you're really focused on.
The way I looked at it is I can't,
Mhm.
look at or concern, I don't want to say I'm not concerned about the agricultural portion. I know the history is there, but, my mindset in this process, or I think ours should be, is does this area have sufficient space for us to do this? Right? Yes or no? Because, in reality, Linda, I think every one of these locations, if we went down that rabbit hole, they would all be disqualified. Someone would have a concern about building this facility or any facility on these locations, and to me, it's going to be up to the select board to say yes or no. We're not even going to consider it, or let's take a look at this a little bit more in detail, because I would think, we're going to offer them, 6, 7 locations, and they're probably going to whittle it down to 2 or 3. That's my thought process on it.
Okay. But I think that's good. That's good. But it's also good to know exactly how you're viewing. And I would agree that that's our mandate. Our mandate is not to, make a choice. Our mandate is to provide options that, because like you say, there's no magic bullet here. There's no,
There's no Goldilocks scenario.
Goldilocks, yes.
And just to add to that is Linda, because you're trying to construct a report as well, it's the agriculture that we've heard is an interest and obviously competing interest. And then rare and endangered species, we've heard about as, not that it's prohibitive, but it's certainly an area to identify of interest. Because, I think when people read the report, to know that their concerns have been identified, if nothing else.
Yes, thank you. That's a very good point.
And I did mention the endangered species towards the bottom, and we'll get to that.
Okay.
So I put the accessibility as average, and really thinking about it is I'm almost at the more at the fair to average instead of just average, but that's just my thought. And reasoning is
Yeah.
there's really one road in, one road out,
Mm-hmm.
depending on where we are. If we're closer to the wastewater plant, there's only one road in, one road out.
Mm-hmm.
Costs, again, I would say the costs are comparable to MCI in my mind. I know it's a new, we have the bones at, at MCI, but here we wouldn't run into any, hopefully unknown utilities, anything of that nature. I mean, we can't, if we run into something that's archaeological, that's an unknown, right? But like in terms of unknown utilities, Alan could probably speak, and Russ, they could have the best as-built in the world, and stuff could be there because it's been lost through the years, especially like at a place like MCI. Here, I don't expect that issue. The only other concern I have here is, does the circuit that feeds the plant, is there enough capacity to, either can we double tap the transformer and feed a new switchboard, or do we need to run, does CMLP need to increase the size of the line out there? I don't know. That's the only other thing that I put in there. Opportunity costs. The only thing I put there is the expansion of the existing wastewater plant. That obviously, if we build it around the plant or adjacent to the plant, it'll kind of inhibit that opportunity. You can scroll down when you have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
Operating costs. I don't see any. I would say the operating costs would be similar to MCI. You're not going to have the interim facilities as like you would at Kai's Road. Now, provide emergency response times. I put that as fair, given the location. I would imagine if there's an emergency, it's going to take quite a while to get from, say, there to, say right out, right? So somewhere around that area, over, in that, part of town. It would take a little while
Mm-hmm.
to get over there. Proximity to high needs areas, I also put as fair. It's really kind of a little far away.
Okay.
But, access to major roads, same thing as fair. It's not great. Adequate infrastructure for water, fuel. I put excellent on the, on the anticipation that we don't need a major upgrade from CMLP to feed the new facility. I'm hoping that the existing circuit should be sufficient. Building age not applicable. Meeting ADA, it's going to have to. It's a new building. Renovations not applicable. Site acquisition and permitting, I would say same thing like Kai's Road. We already own the land. Project planning, can interim operations be maintained? Absolutely. Urgency flexible schedule, I put it as flexible. Existing conditions, my concern is on sorry, I couldn't even on road trips in that area. Sorry, space. Sorry, sustainability. Yes, it's going to be the same as the other facilities. Sorry, I'm reading on the phone. I apologize. So
Okay.
it's the same as the other buildings. We're going to have, if we have a flat rooftop, we're going to have space for solar arrays. Neighborhood effects and externalities. This is the area where I put neighbors will be concerned about local wildlife and increased traffic in the area.
Mm-hmm.
Compatibility with current zoning, I put it as TBD. I didn't look up the zoning for this area. Environmental, legal, community barriers, same thing. Endangered species, hazardous materials, I'm going to assume as an NA. It's been only the wastewater plant, nothing else there. no other like industrial facility. And then political or stakeholder concerns, I put the C above as the, you know, again, the increase in traffic to that neighborhood and, you know, the concerns with the local wildlife.
Good. Um, any other comments that anyone would like to weigh in
Just-
on?
Yeah, just to offer on the wastewater treatment expansion, just note that we're really talking about a potential expansion that could be, involved area is the existing sand bed or the decommissioned sand beds. That area is where we would be looking at, potential groundwater discharge, but not necessarily in the agricultural area or other area, just as a kind of clarification.
Okay, I think we'll get that in there. Okay, now skipping on to everyone's second favorite school, Ripley School.
So acreage and configuration, there is, space. Hold on for a second, sorry. The accessibility is average. Oops. And then the costs will be the same as pretty much everywhere else in terms of building. I just don't know, obviously, the same if we have enough space or capacity on the circuit. Oops.
I guess you might say it might be a little higher, say versus 509 or other, because I think you'd have to demo Ripley, which is, but if you were at 509 and you had a greenfield, that might be less expensive, but I don't know how much less. Because I think Ripley isn't going to be a possibility for reuse. I would assume it would be demoed and you'd build on that land. That's.
Sorry, I got disconnected for a second.
Oh, okay. I was just saying I thought that Ripley would be more expensive because you would have the requirement to do a demo of the existing building and, because it's not a greenfield situation.
I mean, I would think it would be,
I mean, I don't
comparable.
know how much demo costs, so.
I mean, it all depends on what we're doing, right? There's been a couple schools of thought is, do we use the baseball fields? Do we, or are we using the existing building? There's a couple ways this can be sliced.
Right. I guess I thought that the existing building, that sort of the consensus of the full working group was that the existing building was at the end of its life and wouldn't be suitable for repurposing. But maybe Alan or Russ could weigh in on that.
Yeah, I'll throw in that the Ripley building is really at the end of life and is not suitable for renovation, just on the layout and the construction type. So yeah, that building should go away. The demo would be a less expensive demo because it's a one-story building. It'd be really easy to take that building down and get it out of there.
And you're not doing selective demo either. You're doing.
Yeah. It's mostly steel. They could just shake it loose and separate the stuff and then get some recycling going on. But yeah, but the Ripley is definitely beyond its useful life, and needs to go. So that's my takeaway on that building.
Okay, so that doesn't add a material factor relative to any
No.
other options. Okay.
Could it be a little bit more? Yes, but it's not going to move the needle tremendous.
Not at all.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
So again, I don't know how big of a service that facility has. That's the other comment I've been putting in. I left the opportunity cost blank. I think I hate to say it, every one of these locations is, well, if we don't use it for that, for the, Department of Public Works, are we going to, could it be used for, residential, commercial, or, community betterment? It's always going to be, the big concern with these locations.
So I'll just put alternative uses.
Yep.
And then I'll just see if I don't remember if I can copy.
You should be able to drag it. Yep. Should do that. Bingo. Perfect. Okay. Again, operating costs, in my mind, again, Russ and Alan, you guys agree or disagree, but I feel like the operating costs should be pretty even, for most of these facilities. Except for Kai's, with which bucket do we put the interim operation costs? Emergency response times, I feel like they're average to good, not perfect, but same thing with the proximity to high needs areas and access to major roads and public transit. I'm anticipating that the infrastructure is good for water, fuel, etc. Again, now this next comment talking, after Russ's comments, I would say, it's going to be, would be anticipated being a whole new build as opposed to, part selective demo and reconfiguration of the building.
Okay.
ADA, obviously, new build will have to be in compliance. Needs renovations or upgrades. I would say, obviously, it's a new build, so NA, new building. Site acquisition, obviously, there isn't an issue here with that. Project planning, can operations be maintained? I would say a yes. Urgency, flexibility of schedule. The driver would be obviously the time it would take to relocate all the existing uses of the Ripley building out of there to other facilities throughout town to allow that to be demolished. Sustainability, same thing. This will provide a solar, amongst other things, potentially as well.
Mm-hmm.
Neighborhood effects and externalities. Again, neighbors will be concerned with the increased traffic. The handful that are there in that neighborhood. And then also, the potential loss depending on how the campus is reconfigured of the baseball fields. That was my consideration there. Compatibility with current zonings, TBD. Environmental, legal, community barriers, you could say, see above. Hazardous materials. How old's the building, Russ? Do you know?
Probably 1980, 70.
So we wouldn't have asbestos concerns anyways. Shouldn't.
I would think not. I wouldn't think there's no asbestos concerns except in the boiler room. Because it was still routinely used and it is on that boiler in there.
Yep.
But otherwise, any asbestos piping should have been cleaned out if it was in there at all.
And then political stakeholder concerns. Again, it would be limited to the neighborhood or the access to the ball fields if we were going to take that land to use for the campus, or if we were able to keep those ball fields, I would think that would negate that issue.
If I remember, I think one of the concerns, now that I'm thinking about it, is that issue of of access. And here you have good. And you have the Miriam Road, right, which is one access point, but that's the only access point. The other roads right now don't really connect through. They're two, I guess, little residential roads. So I would say maybe access might be poor, but maybe Russ or Alan have some thoughts there.
Yeah, you've got one main access off the road, they use now, which still goes through residential. And then the secondary access up to that loop road, I forgot the name of it. That's pretty tight up there, and it's not the best situation with diesel vehicles driving around with heavy loads and plows and those kind of situations. And what will they do to the roads? So I'd have to say fair, at least
Fair.
on Ripley.
Would that be okay to change, Rob, to fair?
Absolutely, I agree. I mean, this is
Okay.
again like when we started this. This is a working document. You know, this is a team effort. So you know,
Okay. Now the fun ones. Virginia Road.
I didn't put anything, but I'm
No.
I'm gonna take a step as putting poor.
Okay.
I can't put
think
terrible, but I would put poor
I see a lot of pores. Okay.
or
I think we're good on that.
or inadequate. How about maybe instead of poor, inadequate, maybe, but poor. You know, so again, this all depends on how this was going to be handled, because if this was there's existing, buildings there, we would probably either have to purchase or, lease for a long time that building, number one. And number two, those buildings, if we lease them, they would still need to be altered. There's a huge cost there. So I would just leave it at poor,
I think that I agree. I mean, I think that you could say, oh, well, maybe we could get a great deal on one of those buildings because it's such poor occupancy or whatever. But I think even if we got a great deal, it wouldn't be an appropriate site for a public works department unless, we were going to annex the airport, so it's just not, it's just the wrong place in town, unless it was an ancillary facility and we're not looking for that. So I think we can
I,
move on.
I, I, I almost want to not even have this on the list, to be honest with you, just because I don't even think it's worthy of discussion and everyone's time. But that's my thought.
Okay, I'm up for deleting it.
Yeah, so I think you have it on record that it's been contemplated, whether it may, in other committees have eliminated, sites based on just not fruitful. So you wouldn't be
I,
working.
Okay.
I guess given that that we want to encourage community input, we can say that we looked at this and determined it was not a suitable location.
But
So
we
we'll
could,
leave it there for that.
yeah, we can leave it there for that. But I don't think, but just to give everyone kind of the cliff notes, everything was graded pretty poorly for this. I think everyone, it's the location, the costs, it's every single thing that would make it very difficult, not only from the acquisition to construction to finally when we're occupying that location to operating out of there would just not be. It would be a terrible idea.
Mm-hmm.
I'd be in favor of keeping it and just indicating that in all the sections, so it shows that we did our homework and reviewed it, opposed to
Yeah,
just eliminating in totality.
that's fine.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, we said utilities were good. Okay.
Yes, I have to give it something that's good.
Okay.
I'm anticipating that these locations would have sufficient, services. But again,
Well, I
I,
think if you've got all those buildings out there, then there are obviously some services that support them. So,
yeah,
Well,
yeah, I think
I
that's a
will
fair
offer
assumption.
on utilities, it's interesting to know Virginia Road is one very long dead end. It's interesting. It's doesn't have the usual water system looping. Just so it's worth noting. It's
um,
different than the other sites. Worse than
Interesting.
the other sites in that case, yes. Just to
Okay.
add to the mix, sorry.
Okay. No, that's good. Instead of excellent for utilities, we'll give it average or maybe fair.
average is fine.
Okay.
I don't think we have to really, we've spent already enough time on this. We know this is not going to be an option. I would hope.
Okay. All right. 2229 Main Street.
So that's the one thing I didn't look at the acreage on this. I just kind of did everything else.
Oh, I think the
And
acreage is
that's,
excellent. I mean, I think
yep.
there's
So let's
there's
fill that in. Sorry, I missed
I
it.
think there's plenty of room.
So accessibility, I put average. I mean, again, I know it's kind of far uptown where it is, but probably I probably think it's more of a fair than average.
Yeah,
But
I agree let's put fair to average. Because I think it's not as good as Ripley, but
mhm,
it's better than Virginia Road.
absolutely agreed.
Yeah. Okay.
And then just before we go, keep going on, if you could fill in poor for Virginia Road, the top cell, the acreage, I just put poor.
Yeah.
Sorry.
No, that's good.
Again, costs, I would say the costs are pretty similar to build, everywhere unless there's some soil issue that I'm not aware of. That's the only thing that could drive up, in my mind, cost. Alan and Russ, you guys can chime in on that, but that's basically the building's going to be the buildings no matter where you build them. It's going to be the foundation that could really throw things off on these.
There's one question I had about something that Russ once mentioned, and that was the sort of monitoring costs over there. And would that make it more expensive or challenging to build a large facility, or is that not really relevant?
That's not,
Uh,
the cost is not relevant, but the fact that there has to be access points for multiple test sites along the property will dictate what can be built there. And you need access points to those test spots, throughout the year. Not a huge issue, but it depends on how many
Okay.
test spots there are at the end of the day. But it's not a fiscal cost for us. It's just it's something that's going to be in your way when you're developing this.
Okay.
An inconvenience cost.
Yeah.
Now, Russ, with those test wells, right? Do they have to be open air, or can they be, within a building and they just need access to those ports?
I don't know the answer to that.
Just
that was
because,
yeah. I had the same
it's just
question.
okay.
No one could give me the
We could
answer when I was
table
on the
that.
site the other day, last couple weeks ago.
I mean, almost as I'll talk to some people that I work with and see if they know anyone who deals with this, because this is kind of a unique thing.
Yeah.
With what it is. So it's not. But let me talk with a couple people and see if I can find something out about how these approached, and then we can have that once we go in front of the select board with this.
Okay.
Operating maintenance costs, again, pretty similar. Provide a response. Emergency response. I put fair. Proximity to high need areas. I put fair. Access to major roads I put as poor. It is, it's kind of, far away. Infrastructure I put as excellent. I'm assuming since, there was an industrial facility there in the past and it's not there anymore, that, there's water, there's electric and everything else there that will handle the campus. Buildings, structural code compliance, I put NA because that's all, it's going to be a new building. ADA, NA, it's a new building. Needs renovations, upgrades, NA, new building. Site acquisition permitting requirements. The discussion needs to happen with the EPA on how this property would get, turned over to the town, or is the EPA looking for, compensation for this land? I don't know. I don't know that. Project phasing. Can interim operations be maintained? Absolutely. Urgency, flexibility, schedule. We have to discuss with the EPA on acquiring. Sustainability, same as the other locations. Putting them on rooftops. Neighborhood effects and would be, the increase in traffic to that area. And then compatibility with zoning and codes would be a TBD. Environmental, legal, community. Again, traffic and the EPA. We need to discuss with the EPA what their thoughts on that campus would be. And then hazardous materials. We just need, confirmation that, everything that can be mitigated is, and how and what we need to do to make sure that the buildings are, safe for everyone to work in the future. Is the mitigation for this similar to a radon system where you have the wells into the piles and you have like a vacuum system just blowing the air out, or is it something completely different? I don't know. And then political or stakeholders concerns, I put NA for now on this.
Okay. Any thoughts or hands up on 2229?
No.
No. All right. And then finally, 755 Walden.
So I didn't put the acreage there, but I'd say that's poor.
Yeah.
I don't think that has sufficient space to handle the entirety of the town's operations. It has good accessibility. Obviously it's a one-way in, one-way out, but it's only about, I would call it a 500-foot length to Route 2. Costs to build are the same as anywhere in my mind. Opportunity costs, alternative uses is one. Two is we know there'll be external pressures on this facility, this piece of land probably more than most. Operating and maintenance costs, I would say they're going to be the same as everywhere else. Provide emergency response times should be excellent. It's right adjacent to the central artery through town of Route 2, but again, we can't anticipate if the roads are closed or there's an accident or whatever it is. But in a normal situation, if we had to get from there to another part of town without any traffic, should be pretty quick. Proximity to high need areas is fair. I mean, it is still a little bit of a drive, but it's not undoable. Access to major roads and public transit is excellent. The infrastructure here is, I don't know what, if we need to get CMLP to run a new circuit out there. I don't know what the water service is like, but I would anticipate it should be, good. Building age is an NA. There's no building there. Same thing with the ADA. It's going to be a new building, so it would have to have all these items in compliance. Renovations or upgrades, NA. Site acquisition and permitting is an NA. Project phasing, can interim operations be maintained? Yes. Again, the only facility is Kai's that would have some kind of, operational sequencing phasing, for the interim. Um, Urgency, flexibility of schedules, flexible. Existing conditions, requirements are, we already have solar arrays on the site on the existing landfill. There would still be opportunities if we were to build any vertical structures to put arrays on those roofs. Neighborhood effects and externalities, we would have probably, like I said, alluded to earlier, a lot of pressure from outside groups on this facility more than others. Compatibility with current zoning is a TBD. Environmental, legal, community barriers, you see above. Hazardous materials, I'm going to assume NA. I know it's the dump, but that's been capped. And then political stakeholder concerns, I put NA, but it's really, not the same comment 3 times over, but there'll be external pressures on this facility not to be developed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, any additional thoughts on Walden Street? Well, that was magnificent, and you brought us around to this point at 2 o'clock. So thank you for all that work. Really. So so next steps. How do we want to proceed? I think this was a great review. Do we want to sort of have sort of a qualitative thinking about where we are? Do we want to sort of move forward with more quantitative assignments of this and see what results, maybe, not immediately, but maybe at our next meeting? Or how Matt and Rob, do you see, or anybody else obviously, are proceeding from this point? Because I think we filled in an awful lot of blanks, and I think this is telling us awful lot of what our resulting thoughts will be.
I'm just going to throw a suggestion out there. Do we think, do we everyone sits there and grades them? There's 7 locations, correct? Do we, grade them, 1 through 7, and and then that way we kind of come to a consensus of, hey, the group viewed this location as the prime location, this location as the second, third, and then when we get beyond 4, we kind of say we've looked at these locations, but we don't think they're worthy of consideration. I don't know. That's a suggestion.
So first and foremost, I want to really express kudos to Rob. This was a lot of great work, and I think the review is fantastic. I guess 2 things. A, I'm intrigued on, Linda, when you say quantitative review, I'm not sure what that means. And then B, for Rob's suggesting, I think putting a numerical number is useful. Again, these are just recommendations for the select board to review. So I don't think that's a terrible idea to do a numerical one. And again, they can have their own judgments on that. But just for the further review of what you were thinking of, Linda, if you can just flesh that out.
Oh, it was just, sort of, do we say a poor result is a 1, a fair result is a 2, an average is a 3, a good is a 4, a 5 is excellent, and then just, kind of run the numbers across the matrix and see what pops up in the essentially the same rank order of 1 to 7 that Rob was saying. And I mean, I think we could do it both ways. I think we'll probably, shortcut it, because I think we know kind of where 1 to 7 is coming in right now. But I was just going to say, should we go through that exercise or, and I think Rob is saying, do we need to go through that exercise? Because it's, I think, pretty, we could also talk through it as well.
Mhm. That's
That's all.
interesting because you could do 1 through 7, but you could also just be like, there's 3 different categories: useful, not useful, and a maybe. So there could be like 2 in, I wouldn't say a recommended area, but it wouldn't have to be 1 through 7. But I'm good with either way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, both ways are great. I mean, I think, we could go. I mean, the 1 through 7 is kind of like almost like a straw poll of, hey, are we all seeing this the same way? I think we are, but I think it'll give us confirmation of, hey, we have the 7, but really we feel the select board should concentrate on these, either 3 or 4, and then make their decision from there. That way it's shown that we've done the due diligence, have looked at multiple locations throughout town. 1, 2, we've eliminated further locations and we have the reasoning why. And then 3, that way the select board's not going through, a bunch of, locations. And then, the other bit of it is there may be other factors that we're not aware of, uh, whether it be at Ripley or other locations that could play into this too.
So with this, I'm actually thinking of creating 3 different categories. So because if you do 1 through 7, people are going to really focus on that number. It's like, oh, we're number 3. We're worried about that. I would think like good use, possible use, and not ideal would be 3 different categories, and to break them into like two entities into each of them. And just for clarity, I know that there was a meeting with the Walden Woods project. And again, this is it, people. I've had 3 people specifically talk to me about that. I just absorbed their comments and not something that I've weighed in on. But I know you guys have been communicating with that 3 different individuals had indicated that to me. But I would say break into 3 different categories opposed to 7.
I agree with Matt. I think that's a great idea.
Yeah. Okay. So Matt, would you like to list what might be your goods, your possibles, your not
I'm
ideals?
going to let, so the Speedway has been done very well with Rob. I'm going to let him take the lead on this, and I'll be kind of a drafting car and figure out where I want to pass him or not.
All right. Okay. So I'm going to say MCI would be usable. Sorry, what was it? 3. Let me make sure I have the 3.
We can identify them differently, but I would just say good use, possible use, and not ideal. But again, we'll work on those. And I'm thinking that the first ones could be 2 or 3 or maybe even 4. But yeah, sorry.
Okay, I would say good use would be MCI, Ripley, Bedford, and then
I'm sorry, what was the, oh yeah, okay, Bedford.
and then possible use would be Kai's and 2229. And then the other 2 would be not ideal.
What do
So
you think of that, Matt?
I like that. I again, opposed to doing the numerical thing, I like Ripley as kind of the top one, but I think those are strong ones, Kai's. And then we're saying that Walden is not great. And what are we saying as well? Is it the wastewater treatment plant? Virginia,
no,
yeah.
Virginia's not.
Road.
So Virginia Road and sorry, and Walden to me are the 2 that are not ideal. And then possible uses would be Kai's and 2229.
I like that. 2229 is a really interesting space, and there could be a lot that's put in there. So,
Yeah, I just
um,
again,
yep.
what does I know there have been other, committees have looked at that area and again, what has the EPA, willing to put their stake in to say that what that property can be used for.
Linda, you're in contemplation mode. What is your thoughts?
Um, I am on board with the good use, MCI, Ripley, Bedford Street. I'm on board with the not ideal, 750, Wallen Street and Virginia Road. I think, and I guess both Kai's and 2229, I have reservations about, but yeah, I guess I'm okay with this. The one thing it occurs to me that we haven't considered from sort of from the early days is Peabody. And because I think the facility itself doesn't represent an opportunity. But I'm looking at this and I'm thinking people are going to say, well, what's wrong with Peabody? So I'm wondering if we should put Peabody, just to add it to the not ideal and just to answer the question. Is
I
that
mean,
weird at this
it
stage
it's
to
not
say
it's
that?
not it's not weird, but let me ask this question here,
Yeah.
and maybe I'm kind of crossing streams, or I thought the thought process was potentially to use Peabody to relocate, renovate Peabody, and or maybe I'm wrong, and to relocate the functions that are at Ripley. And I know there's other options too that we can't discuss here, but I thought that
Right.
was one of the table discuss options.
Yes, I think that is on the table. Um, yes, for another group, and maybe that's just something
But
that,
we could add it to the list, and put that as the option, what, not the option, but the external, externalities there of under consideration for you know other uses, town uses.
but even if it were not under consideration for town uses, I don't see that we would, really be able to both use the building and then the fields for, the um
I
uh s-
I thought I thought we looked at this. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think there's
yeah.
14 acres there. I could be wrong.
So I was gonna. So as a member
Yeah,
of the
but now,
Recreation
but
Committee, I know
now,
we're. Go ahead. Sorry.
oh, I'm sorry, but now we're not looking for 14 acres. Now we're looking for 7.8 acres, which is what,
Oh, yeah,
remember, Russ
that's right.
changed
That's right.
that.
Sorry.
So we didn't go back and reconsider Peabody because of that. But I think you're right. And initially we said there wasn't enough space, but now there might be.
Can we ask how much space is there? Not as a member of the Recreation Committee, I know we're very interested in keeping that field. That being said, it is
Right.
interesting space. Alan and Russ walked me through that and came up with a lot of just kind of great intellectual ways that it could be utilized. So the bones are strong. If you don't include the field, and if you include the field, can Alan and Russ, can you tell us how much acres there is? I almost intellectually think we should include it, and I would even put it in kind of low class possible use.
Uh, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out on that acreage issue. Trying to, let me see, it's how about if, what, one thing I'm thinking through is it's hard to evaluate it. If you're going to include it, it seems to me you just use the same, put it in the same, sort of matrix, just because. I don't know how it's included but not vetted, just like the others.
So I'll take the task of, I mean, we can do it right now if Linda wants to add it in, add the column in. I mean, we can walk through it pretty quickly and kind of, you know, give it the criteria and grade it. I mean, it shouldn't take long.
Okay.
Hey, can I also say, did we review the light plant? Didn't we look at that location? Right Route 2 and kind of Acton?
Yes,
Wasn't that an
but
area?
the issue there is that there's going to be a water treatment facility, or there's plans for the apex of that property to be used for a water treatment facility, and those are actually underway.
Okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That is correct. Yeah.
Yeah, so that eliminated the space opportunities.
Great. Thank you
if I
for that.
recall.
And I have to say, I think Russ had to, oh, he's back. Russ, are you there?
Back. I'm back.
All right. So Russ, there's a discussion on, how does this committee at least address the issue of, well, what about Peabody? Did you look at that for a public works campus? And I haven't really plugged in or been, have my thinking cap on that front. But if they were to do that and use the same matrix, is there a way of just at least sort of capturing it? It doesn't mean it's going to happen. There might be other reasons, but just apple and apple, why would it not be in the list? And one of the discussions was the playing fields might be an area for expansion, of that campus for public works operations. And then the question is, well, there wasn't 14 acres, but given you've kind of volunteered, you could probably do it, for 8 acres or so. Is that a factor? So I think you might want to weigh in, or if you want, if the subcommittee is going to go through this, matrix and just quickly populate, it's at least you can say you've identified it. Does it come up as the number one option? I don't know. It's like we've dismissed it, but guess what? It's number one. Well, that could be an interesting discussion.
Right. No, yeah, it should go through the same matrix. I think that's valid. The difference in the area calculation would be that the Peabody is on a slope site, which you're going to need more area to make ADA accessibility parts work. So you're going to need a little more area if you're just using the school property. If you add the field, you've got another 1.5 acres or 2 acres to play with, maybe more. So that sort of evens the playing field.
Oh, that's awful.
I didn't mean it. It wasn't.
That's all
It was
good.
Friday. I'm not that fast on a Friday.
I think we needed that.
Yeah, but I mean, by all means, you should put it in there and identify it if you're going to include playing field or not include playing field. As far as a contingent space,
I would say we have to have no hesitation in including the playing field, because no matter where we go, there's someone that, again, like I alluded to earlier, we're not going to find the right perfect location. Someone's not going to be satisfied with, our selection because of a loss of, either a playing field or a walking path or, bird viewing location, whatever it may be. Right. And I'm not trying to dismiss those people, but again, we kind of need to put the horse blinders on a little bit and just, these are locations, and if we need to add that acreage in, we add it in, and it's not going to be our decision at the end of the day anyways.
Right. Agreed.
So I think, Linda, with this one, we just put excellent and we put in parentheses with the playing field included.
There are no sacred cows.
Exactly. Gotta break the eggs to make an omelet, right?
Yeah. Welcome to Public Works.
Yeah. Well, Alan, you know what I do. It's pretty similar. So I'm not, I gotta,
No,
Um,
you understand, and I do, is you
yeah.
get, yeah.
So, sorry, I'm missing the
So,
column there.
so provide rapid accessibility, safety and operations, and efficient circulation. Would that be maybe average because of the hill as opposed to excellent,
I I would say it's
fair,
average,
average?
fair to average. I mean, it's
Okay.
uh,
Costs,
I would say, again, depending on the plan, but it'd be similar to MCI in that regard, right? We're gonna
Right.
have we're gonna have selective demo to do versus full on demo. I mean, maybe it is cheaper to do full on demo. I don't, depending on the plan, right? Then erect a new structure. But that's I would say the costs are going to be very similar, no matter which location we pick, unless we
yeah.
find. Again, I keep going back to the soil, but the soil is a real. I think unless Russ can agree or disagree, soil is the only thing that can really drive an issue on any of these
Yeah.
structures.
Yeah, anything, yeah, what you don't know, you don't know, now drive your cost. There's a
Yep,
lot of rock outcropping over there, so it's a blasting site, that kind of stuff, but
yep.
we know that.
Or clay or whatever it is, right? We're
Yeah.
gonna have to drive deeper piles, whatever it may be. That's the two things that would be my concern. Um, so
The house
again,
next door is for sale now, if anyone's interested, to Peabody.
I'm sorry, what?
House next door is for sale
Oh,
at Peabody. I think they're not sure of the use of the building moving down the road, and they're running.
yeah, yeah. Okay, opportunity costs. Well, there are probably higher opportunity costs for Peabody than for some of these others because, uh, of the,
I
of
I would just
reuse
say
of the building. But yeah.
I'd say the alternative uses, right? That I mean, they're kind of the same, but you're
Mm-hmm.
right. I mean,
Yeah. Operating and maintenance costs.
I
Well,
would I would just copy the next.
okay.
Again, with the new building, it's and Russ and Alan, you
Yep.
interject, but if this say we were to select this location, it would be a complete gut for the most part. So all new, HVAC, mostly new electrical. So I would say the maintenance costs would be the same. It's not like you're going into a building and just kind of, rubber taping it and, duct taping it and, a little glue and bubble gum and hope it stays together.
Right.
And we're going to be spending a lot of money on repairs.
Mm-hmm.
Right, I agree.
Okay. Emergency response times, high need areas, and access to major roads. So,
I would say all fair.
mhm.
I don't know. Anyone else wants to interject, but
Oops.
I would agree. Yeah, no.
Yeah, for a police station, I'd say poor, but for this use, I'd say fair.
Okay. And utilities, I imagine, would be,
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I mean,
who knows?
I would say
Um,
water, Alan and Russ can answer to that, but I would say we'd have to look at what, the circuit is from CMLP that's out there. But I would think potentially, hopefully, it's just an upgrade of the transformer, not a whole new circuit.
Yeah, that's agreed. There's plenty of power there, but there's no three-phase. If we need three-phase for something, that's a whole nother story.
Well, I mean, I would think you'd probably want three phase if you're going to have any welding, right?
Yeah, you can get away without it, but yeah,
I know.
it'd be appropriate.
Yep.
so is that good or is that
Fair.
fair?
Fair. I agree with that.
Okay. Then physical condition.
I would say put the upgrades where I would copy Kai's Road, kind of. Not Kai's Road. Yeah, I mean, needs upgrades and reconfiguration. Put what we had for Virginia Road would be kind of the similar kind of almost similar scenario, right? I mean, we're gonna have to upgrade it to, it's going from a school to a, equipment maintenance facility.
Oh.
It's gonna have those changes and everything else.
Okay. Site acquisition timing, permitting requirements. Well, this one's ready to go, right?
Pretty much.
Yeah, so just all of those are excellent.
Yep.
Oh. And then sustainability.
Again, it's the same thing. Rooftops, a lot of rooftops we can put, solar arrays in. And I mean, we don't really talk about this too much, but I mean,
Yeah.
you know, lighting wise, you're going to have, LED, you're going to have, photo cells for outside, you're going to have lighting control inside, a lot more, you're not going to have a full BMS system for a building of this size probably, but, there'll be a lot more leaning towards the lead type of facility. Not saying it will be lead certified, but you'd have a lot of those, bits and pieces incorporated into it.
Okay. And then neighborhood effects and externalities. I guess it's
I would say competition from other town needs.
oh. I see. Okay. Zoning, I forget the zoning on that.
I would
but
just put TBD.
yeah. And environmental, legal, community, I don't think there's any issues there
Nope.
that we are aware of. Hazardous materials.
I would say TBD.
Well, we know the building had some hazmat in it. It was identified in 2017. Minor.
Okay.
Asbestos piping, or do we have flooring too?
We have flooring, adhesives, a little bit of piping in some of the hidden mechanical rooms.
Okay. And then political is, it's going to be the abutters and maybe, I don't know, but nothing that's different. Okay. So then would we put 3 for good use, MCI, Ripley, and Bedford, 3 for possible use, Kais Road, 220, 2229, and Peabody, and then not ideal, 755 Walden and Virginia Road?
Like that.
I do too.
Gentlemen, we're done.
Yay. Good job,
Thank
everybody.
you. All right, let's take comments as if there are any.
Bless you.
Can we go back to the start? Just kidding.
You can watch the recording later, Russ. How about that?
Okay, any staff updates or other things to be considered? And should we pick another meeting schedule? And I think there'll be things to do, because we have to get a report out, and so I sent you updated reports, updated appendices. I know nobody probably had a chance to look at them, so I'll say put them aside, and I'll try and incorporate what we've done today in the report.
Linda, can I weigh in? Yeah.
Yes, please do.
First of all, this group you started slow, you're finishing fast. I looked at your draft report and it's really solid. So you're putting a great framework. And I think this exercise is really going to help, kind of flush it out. I would comment there was a reference to a matrix or, in the report. And, I'm not sure how you want to make this work with that, but it's just kind of flagging that.
Yep.
And then the other thing is I do want to get this group into MCI, the structures. And it is a bit of, herding cats here. I got you all. I don't know if you could come and look at your calendars right now. DCAM is very protective of who goes in at this point. And so what I need to do is provide a couple dates and names, ranks and serial numbers and all that. So if you could we take a minute to see if there's some time that might work? Because it's just difficult otherwise to get sort of, Rob, are you in a place where you can kind of look at your calendar?
I am right now. I'm in a parking lot.
Okay. So it's really, next week is a short week with a holiday on Monday, but and it might be possible to look at next Thursday or Friday, the following week. Again, I'm looking, maybe Tuesday is looking very good, the 27th, if that might work. I don't know. And then we could also do, I see the, Tuesday or Wednesday, possibly, the 27th, 28th.
Right
I
now,
don't know how that works for you folks.
it works fine for me.
27th looks good for me.
27th looks okay. What about, so I'm making a note here. So we've got the,
Yeah,
Right
27th should be all right.
27th is good. AM or PM, you guys have some flexibility?
PM would be better.
Okay.
But
So fair enough. If there's a preferred, I'll shoot for that. So PM, the 27th is ideal. Do we want to look at next Thursday, the 15th?
you mean
I'm sorry. Oh no, I'm in the wrong month.
22nd?
Hold on. Where
The
did I go?
22nd.
Where am I? I'm now, I got to get back.
I'm tied up on that
Okay, so
Thursday.
the 22nd doesn't work. Okay, that's fine. So the 27th, we want to do another day of that week, at least a window if could potentially need, because again, I got to coordinate.
Friday?
Yeah, Friday?
Yeah.
I can't do the 23rd. Are we
Okay.
talking about the 30th?
Yeah,
The
we're talking
30th.
about the 30th. Yep.
Oh, yeah. 30th, yeah. And I could do the 20, I think you said the 28th. I could do the 28th after 1.
I can make that work too.
Okay. How about you, Linda?
28th after
After
1
1. Yeah.
works for me.
Okay. So we got the
thought on-
27th, 28th, and if needed, say Friday morning.
The
Yeah,
30th. Yeah.
Thought we had a land use working group meeting that afternoon,
All right. So
the 30th. So
that would be the AM possibly, if we could do the 30th AM with this group.
That's great.
Okay, so we have the 27th AM, the 28th after 1 PM, or the 30th AM as options. And I'll push that out to DCAM and should have a response early next week.
Perfect.
Great. And I'm sorry, the 27th would be the morning. Is that
AM,
right?
correct.
Okay.
27th AM, 28th after 1 p.m. and 30th a.m.
Oh, I thought the 27th was PM. It doesn't matter to me. I'm fine. But
Did we say, okay, well, hold on a second. Did
I thought Rob said PM.
Yeah, PM would probably be better,
Preferred-
but if
right, I had,
Matt,
check. I had AM then PM check. Preferred PM, yes, so that's good.
yeah, if we have to do the AM, I can probably sneak out for.
That's all
How long are we
right.
thinking? It's an hour?
I'd say an hour and a half should be
Okay,
sufficient.
that'll work.
And just to be clear, they're very protective. It's not a tour of the entire campus. It's of the buildings that we're contemplating for repurposing for public works and the wastewater treatment plant. So it's not the full tour, but so an hour and a half should be sufficient.
I'd love the full tour, but totally
I know,
understand.
another time, but yeah, the open door closed.
Yeah.
At least we were on the other side of it when it closed. So,
Yeah.
all right, this is helpful. Thank you. So that was my interest for next step, Linda. So I
Great.
interrupted. You were going to talk about the next meeting.
No, that's great. So yeah, I guess we should schedule another meeting. Now that I've closed my calendar down. I guess I would say maybe if our group meeting is on the 30th, maybe we could meet on the 28th after 1 p.m. or
That should be
the
fine for me.
27th.
Okay, so we'll use that window of time
Yeah.
and keep those open, and then you'll just, sort of nail it down early next week.
That sounds good.
And just to be clear, the tour will not be, there will be no deliberation. So it's just, we don't have to post it. And by the way, it's restricted to who can attend. So it's simply just to put eyes on it, with no deliberation.
Right.
Okay.
Excellent.
Perfect.
Okay. Have a good weekend, everybody.